not only would that immediately end the killing of Americans, it would end the killing of a lot of people, and I think these predictions that everything would be a disaster just won't come true. Look at what's happened in Vietnam. We trade with Vietnam. We visit Vietnam. The president of Vietnam comes over here. Matter of fact, they've turned into pretty good capitalists. You know, we invest over there, and they're earning money. What about the Chinese? I think they're outdoing us right now. They've taken so many of our dollars. And sometimes I think foolishly, because we didn't produce much. It wasn't like we were producing enough that we earned our money. We just printed the money, and they were willing to take it. But right now, they hold a lot of dollars, and they hold us over the barrel. And we can't even fight the war. We can't even run our domestic system without this continual borrowing. We borrow over $800 billion a year from foreigners, because that's how much we spend over and above what we produce. But the Chinese, what are they doing? Do they have armies running around the world invading? No, they don't. And we could still take care of China just like that. Our military is still top dog, and nobody's going to attack us militarily. But they're attacking us in different fashions. It's our finances that are at such risk. The Chinese could bring us to knees just by collapsing the dollar. If you watch the news today, dollar down sharp again. Oil over $100 a barrel. I mean, how long is this going to last? And we have to live within our means. That is what our goal has to be. It sounds like, well, no, if we can get away with it, why not do it? I mean, we can tax to a degree, and we can borrow to a degree, and then we can inflate to a degree. But when you inflate, that is, create money out of thin air to pay the bills, eventually that dollar has to go down in value, and that is what's happening. We live way beyond our means, and what the dollar is telling us that we have to live within our means. And the reason I talk about foreign policy, not only do I fear what happens and people die, but it's the mentality that goes along with war. When a country's at war, Randolph Bourne once says, war is the health of the state. That is, when war is going on, the people's willingness to defend personal liberties are diminished. We're sacrificing our freedoms here at home. So I don't think we have external threats, anything like the internal threats of our liberties here at home. Our civil liberties are being violated, and we better be aware of that as well. In order to remain strong and vigilant, we have to deal with an overextended foreign policy. All great nations eventually end by spreading themselves too thin around the world. I mean, even back as far as Roman times went, you know, they didn't lose military battles. We don't lose military battles. We're not going to. The Soviets didn't lose military battles. We didn't have to fight the Soviets, but they did collapse because they went bankrupt. They couldn't afford it anymore. So we're at this point now where we're too far. We have 700 bases. We're in 130 countries, and I think it makes us less safe and less secure. It gives incentives for people to join Osama bin Laden, the few radicals, and that to me is a great danger. So it's time we have to change this, whether it's for our safety and security, militarily speaking, but also financially. And why wait until there's a collapse? Why wait until the dollar is destroyed? I think the American people can come together by cutting spending, but it has to be overseas first. We can't go and cut spending. Some of these programs shouldn't exist in this country. I'm old-fashioned enough to believe that I don't even think the federal government should run our educational system. I think that should be local. In the meantime, we don't want to put people out in the street. There's a lot of people dependent on medical care and other things, and we don't have to. We're still wealthy enough to do it if we work our way out of it. But we have to cut somewhere, and I say let's cut overseas. It costs us nearly $1 trillion a year to maintain our empire overseas, and it's time that ended. So we can talk about saving $100, $200, $300, $400, how willing the people are to do this. Take that money, bring it home. Why do we pay these troops in Europe? How long are we going to do this? When we pay all our troops to Europe, we send the money over there. They spend the money over there. If we had the troops here at home, they'd spend the money here at home. That'd be big money back here. Infrastructure problems in this country. So what do? We're taxed to send over our bombs, and we blow up the infrastructures in these countries around the world. Then we're taxed to rebuild the infrastructure around the world. While our bridges are falling down, I say let's take care of our own bridges here at home. That's right. but as I say, I was very reluctant a year ago to get involved, but I've been very, very encouraged. Now I am believing that the American people are much more ready than I ever dreamed, and the young people have responded very favorably. College campuses are responding very favorably. And somebody said, well, why should the young people support you? I said, well, maybe they can add and subtract. A couple of the other generations say, well, what have you given us? Well, have we given you a republic? No, we have given you a lot of debt and a lot of obligations, and we want you to pay into Social Security for the next 50 years, but don't expect anything out of it. I mean, they figured this out. And when I talk to the young people, they say, I like your foreign policy, I like your monetary policy. They like the idea that money should be backed by something, and they like the idea of getting their life back, where they can lead their own life as they choose. And people leave them alone, you know, and get to spend their own money and get out of Social Security and work our way out of this. So it's a fantastic philosophy, and it's not mine. It's the American philosophy. It's what the founders talk about. It's what the Constitution mandates. You know, if you look at the Constitution, if you look at Article 1, Section 8, and that's what we all fight for when we go into the military, defend the Constitution, I mean, it tells you exactly what we're allowed to do, and it's not very much. You know, but the confidence is placed on the people. It's placed on the people who are supposed to be free to assume responsibility for themselves, and the government is supposed to provide safety and security and protect the borders and a sound currency and make sure that the contracts are enforced and the Justice Department works, things like that. But it's not supposed to run our lives and spend all our money and run up these deficits. But evidently, the country is much more attuned to this than I thought a year ago, where they realized we are in some problem, in big trouble, and we need to do something about it. And it's not tinkering. You never heard me up on the stage saying, well, if you elect me, I'm going to manage the war differently in Vietnam or in Iraq. It isn't a management style. It's a philosophy style. It's the foreign policy. We have to change that. We have to change our attitude about what we're doing. We didn't make the world safe for democracy, so let's give up on that. Let's make the system here work. Let's make prosperity here work.